Hey craft nerds! So if you've watched a recent video of mine, you'd know that me and my husband just came back from a trip to Tassie, and during our trip we went to Mona, which is the Museum of Old and New Art. It was a really amazing experience, and I highly recommend, if you're even a little bit interested in creative things, that you go and check it out. It's an art gallery like I've never seen before, and I really enjoyed it, and it was actually a great way to experience art because they had these really excellent iPods that you would take around. They had location settings, so you could actually just have them work out where you were, and it would talk about the artwork that you were closest to. So, you know, you would just click this button every time you wanted to sort of refresh where you were, and it would come up with information, interviews, actual audio. And so I was listening mainly to the audio as we were going through all of the artworks. And I'm not entirely sure, but I think that the exhibition that we saw, I think they must change their exhibitions as any gallery does. And this one was the what did they call it? The Museum of Everything, or the Art Gallery of Everything. And it was really interesting because it sort of stepped through a whole range of different styles of artwork that were really unusual and interesting. And I've managed to capture some footage of most of what we saw. My camera did run out of juice towards the end. Now, a little warning, it is art, and with art it is common for there to be nudity and things. So there is nudity, there are some, you know, words that are not fantastic for young people. So, you know, if you're under 18, I would, you know, recommend that you watch this with your parents. It is art though, and kids were allowed in the exhibition, so, you know, I think it's really up to the individual whether they feel that their kids are ready to view these things or not. So yes, there is some nudity though, and I just wanted to let you guys know up front that there's nudity and some foul language on some of the artworks that we're about to see. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. So we decided to get a coffee, and there was this great little place just down below deck at the port, and we watched the Mona Roma come in, which is the ferry that takes you over to Mona. It's a really cool ferry. It's really been decked out to match the art gallery. You can see a strange looking kind of ornate couch at the front there. There's sheep at the back. There's all sorts of interesting things in there. You can just do a ferry over, or you can get I think they called it Posh Pit, where you pay a bit extra and you get nibbles and things. We just decided to go the standard ferry and have lunch, you know, elsewhere instead of getting the nibbles. But it was a lovely ferry ride anyway, and you'll see that we go past Hobart, and then we go underneath the Tasman Bridge, the main bridge in Tasmania. This is the bridge I was talking about earlier. This is the grounds at Mona. before you go inside the actual art gallery itself. So you can see it's quite interesting. There's this amazing truck that's just so ornate, made out of metal, and it's massive. You can see the person standing there. It gives you an idea of the size of it. And this stone wall was amazing. It's the first thing we saw, and then this water feature. Now I have a separate video about the news that we actually received through this water feature, which in itself was amazing. These are dinosaurs that looked pretty cool. They were made out of all sorts of different things, tape decks. They looked like they were created with, I think it was zip ties. One of the one of the dinosaurs was made of other dinosaurs. So this artwork and the ones around it were made by a savant that obviously numerology numbers were really important to him. These works I found really interesting. I think it was the early 1900s they said they were created, and that's why I thought it was so interesting, because the style just seems well outside of that period of time. So much detail in these pieces. You see the massive size of it. They did tell us the names of the artists, but I apologise. I am really terrible with names, and I did try to get a booklet that had the names included so I could talk about the names of the artists. Unfortunately, the cheapest book I saw was $60, and I just couldn't afford to spend that on a book about Mona. Now, these are modern day, fairly modern day artworks. They're not Egyptian, ancient Egyptian or anything like that. I think I remember that this was just a guy that doesn't normally create artwork, and he made it for his wife. So that's really kind of sweet. I love these. They look so fun, just colourful, mosaic looking. This is absolutely amazing. The detail on that wooden piece. I wish I had filmed it for a little bit longer there, but I guess I was trying to quickly pan around and get a view of everything. I love the colour of these pieces as well. Really just beautiful works of art. And I remember them talking about the guy that made these, he wasn't doing it for art's sake, I don't think. It seemed more like he was trying to give a message, and anything that he read or talked about, he'd create a sign for it. It sounded like almost a compulsion that he had to create all of these signs with anything that he found. See the sheer size of that piece. It's the entire wall, and then they've got this casket sitting in the middle. It's kind of creepy. And the next room's all of these females, almost Barbie-like pictures and sculptures. It's such a contrast. Such an unusual piece. I really liked the story of the pieces created in the middle that are hanging there. They were created by an artist who had Down syndrome, and she would create these amazing sculptures out of wool and hide objects within there, so things around the house would go missing, and they x-rayed the pieces and found a lot of those objects were inside the sculptures themselves. These pieces are creepy, and I don't quite understand what's going on. It was a gentleman, I believe, that created these pieces, and it's a whole range of pieces where I think it's talking about sexual abuse of children, to be honest. There's little boys that look like little girls until they're naked, and then these older kids or grown-ups, I'm not sure, that have horns. So it's like they're portrayed as evil or something like that. And then you can see this horned creature holding one of the children who's crying. And there's so much symbology in these works, but I feel like you would need a lot more time to sit and contemplate them, that there's messages within them somehow. But yeah, really creepy. And these are just fun, like these crazy guns made of all sorts of different bits of material and all hanging and pointing forward. I really love this piece, it's so much fun. Pieces in this room were more like doodles, and I can't recall what was said, to be honest, on the audio tape. I was having a bit of trouble with it at that point, and also trying to catch up with my husband, who had zipped all the way through the exhibition. So the detail in this is amazing.
So from memory, I think a lot of these rooms were related to sort of bridging a gap somewhere between maths, science and art, which I thought was really interesting. So a lot of the ones that were in the previous rooms were mathematical equations and things like that. And one gentleman created all of these works of art, and I honestly again can't remember his name unfortunately, but he lived basically in what looked like a tin shed and just was a prolific art creator, painting all of these works of art that are now hanging up. But his house just looked unlivable, and they had a little film of his house in the middle of the room as well. This is massive and it looks like books, but apparently it's made of lead and clearly glass as well, which is shattered all around the place. Amazing. I think this is probably my favourite piece of art that I saw. I just love this. The detail, when I zoom right in, you can just get an idea of the level of detail in this. I just love it. I mean, look at that. These are funny little characters. Apparently these pieces here are made of egg cartons, so they look like stone, but it is actually paper mache out of egg cartons. And these really, really long pieces must be about 10 meters long, some of them, and apparently were created on a lady's kitchen table who was suffering some sort of medical condition, and she drew those pictures to cope with it. This is crazy, this piece, because it is, I don't know, about 3 or 4 meters long and 3 or 4 meters wide, so it's actually quite large and just insane to look at. And this is made out of little mechanical bits and pieces. Another little village. Futuristic. These photographs. Again, unfortunately I didn't catch too much of the audio for this one. It was, I was having a bit of trouble keeping up with all of the audio. But I just really love these, and the buildings themselves that are pictured in there are just so unique and amazing. The contrast within the photos themselves are amazing. That stuff there was created by a blind man who was trying to make things to ward off the birds, like scarecrows to ward off birds from his crops. it was around this time that my phone had run out of charge, so there were a few exhibition pieces that I had to, that I wasn't able to film. I love this melted car. I would completely drive this if they sold one like this. I would buy this. Only a small snip of what this particular exhibition part was, and it was pretty amazing.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed my little tour through Mona, and again I highly recommend that you go and have a look at it if you're ever in Tassie. It is a fabulous place to go and check out. Alright, thanks for tuning in. If you like these videos, please subscribe, and I'll be sure to bring you much more creative videos and craft nerdiness. See you, craft nerds!